Welcome one, welcome all. We have a wonderful slate tonight, or at least I was hoping it would be wonderful. But if you are, kind of not paying attention to the news or whatever, Nico Collins is ruled out for this one, despite being anticipated to play. It looked most likely. It turns out that Nico Collins will be inactive for this game. Some other key injuries too. You'll have Taylor Decker out for the Lions as well, their left tackle. This is a slate where I don't know, Kurt. I look at it here for fantasy purposes. We get some value opened up. Value before the Nico Collins thing was really bleak. Now it's more than viable to go with some of these cheaper Houston wide receivers and stuff, right? Then you look on the Lions side, and you know what they're going to try and do. The Gibbs and Monty show has been an incredible watch over the last few weeks. But I also look at this game, Kurt, as a chance for the Texans to kind of stand up and say they belong, right? And I know that they're shorthanded with their receivers. No Diggs, obviously, out for the year. No Nico tonight, despite being anticipated to be back. But for some reason, Kurt, I see these two teams on different levels. Like, I see the Lions as a few tiers above the Texans. And I don't know if I should be thinking that. But, the Texans lose last week, on Thursday Night Football last week, 21-13. Dropped one to the Packers recently, too. I don't know. It seems like a chance for a statement game from the Texans here. What do you think about this game and this slate in general?
It's just really – wait, my microphone's way over here. Hold on. It's just really tough with this receiving core. I mean, you come into it with Diggs, Nico Collins, and Dale.
You muted yourself. You unplugged your mic. You muted yourself in that process.
I didn't. Like, nothing unplugged. But, yeah, it's just tough with a depleted group. You lose Collins. You're like, okay, we still got Diggs and Dell. Now you lost both, but you get Dell back next week. I think this team at full strength, even with one of the wide receivers healthy, I think is a really tough out, like in the playoffs. But right now, I think the Lions are just going to be too much for them. But if they did come out and win this game, it would be huge for their confidence, getting Nico back and just ready for the stretch run. So I think this defense is actually – I mean, I know people aren't really talking crap about it, but this defense is very underrated, and they're very, very good against the run. And, I mean, oh, God, who's the linebacker for them again? Who's the coach? D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So too much CTE. But yeah, I mean, he really has them boys going. So I would love to see them come out and get a win tonight. But man, I also like the Lions. But I think this defense needs to be talked about, and so is this run game. It's going to be like a battle of two immovable forces here between that run game and run defense and then Detroit's running game.
Yeah, it's a great point that you bring up here. The Texans defense, despite not normally being considered like one of those great defenses, they've been every bit of that and then some, right? Like this season, I know that a lot of it has to do with schedule-wise, right? Like you never want to just go ahead and say like scheduling-wise, these guys are the best just because they're playing the Patriots and, who else in their division, Jaguars and stuff. But they still rank 12th in rushing yards allowed per game and 3rd in passing yards per game, which – you mentioned how their running defense, their rushing defense has been elite, but their passing defense has been kind of in that same range. And I know wide receiver ones, for the most part, have been able to be effective against them, but everyone else, tight ends included, have been really weak. And it is worth noting that this Texans defense might just be legit, and it might be the reason why they're even in this game, right? Like, look, I know that this Texans offense has been inconsistent, but it's still got a young, dynamic quarterback in C.J. Stroud in there. They still got some decent weapons as well. This defense should be able to hold up, you'd hope. But we'll see tonight. Kurt, I want to go ahead and start with the quarterbacks here in just a second. But really, I just got to make sure that people know RPS 15% off your first purchase here at Run Pure Sports. We have content for almost every single sport that DraftKings offers, as well as content for the other DFS site like FanDuel and stuff. If you want NFL Showdown content, NBA Showdown content, NBA, college football, NHL, golf, college basketball, and then some, and the list keeps going on. RPS 15% off your first purchase here. Kurt, talk to me about the quarterbacks here, because Goff has been a low-volume machine, right? Like, you look at what he's done. It's not like he's just dropping back, for 300 yards or whatever and getting there. His recent performances, despite the Lions destroying teams, right? Like, you look at what they did to Tennessee. He only had 85 yards in that one. You look at what they did against Green Bay. He only had 145 yards with that one. What's your take on Jared Goff? And then go ahead and dive into Stroud after him.
First of all, I want to talk about I do know that Nico is out. I have him in 2 of my 3 fantasy leagues.
You accidentally said Dell. We should make sure to note Nico back.
Yeah,
next
I
week.
was gonna say I was probably slipped up where I was referring to him coming back next week. But yeah, Nico is out. It's Dell is the only main guy of the trio there. Thank you, Andrew. And I do play classical piano with a glass of wine. I'm a big red wine guy, but I'm not drinking in like a year and a half.
That's
but
true.
As far as the quarterbacks go, I mean, you got to talk about the elephant in the room. Detroit's pass funnel. Stroud, I know they've been shaky. I hope that keeps people off. It's a depleted group. I understand that, but Detroit's a pass funnel, and especially if Houston's playing from behind, give me CJ Stroud. He's under 10K. We'll take it versus pass funnel. Give me 2 pass catchers with him. Detroit's the elite against tight ends, so I'm gonna have 2 receivers. It's gonna be Hutchinson. It's going to be Dell. It's going to be Dusty Robert Woods, going to be John Mechie. It's going to be 2 of those guys, and we'll rank those as we get into it later. Goff, I was able to fit him in my first because I'm actually going cheap captain in my first one, so I don't mind Goff at all. I'm okay fading him though, just because the running game is Gibbs catching passes and stuff like that, and the running game. It's okay for me to fade him because he's not playing against the pass funnel. So I want to prioritize CJ Stroud, and I like that I'm getting a little discount on him.
I think it also should be noted, too, that CJ Stroud jetted off 8 times last time they played against the Jets. They were shorthanded then, right? And I'm not usually sitting here thinking CJ Stroud's much of a runner. As much as an Ohio State fan I am, I'm very aware of how much he wants to stay in the pocket and throw the ball downfield. However, when the duty called, he ran last time out against the Jets. He had 59 rushing yards, including a 25-yard rush in that span. To me, that keeps him in the captain pool. For Jared Goff, I'm not keeping him in the captain pool, Kurt. Because when I look at CJ Stroud, not only do we know how great of a quarterback he can be and what he can do with just his arm, but he's also got that, I would say it's like deceptive, upside with his legs, because in reality, he's not someone who has ran a ton in his career, even in college, right? He shows up when he has to. And right now, this is a game where when you're kind of limited with your weapons, you're going against the Lions here on primetime football. I think he's going to jet off a little bit more than usual. Last year, he didn't even eclipse 8 rushes in one game at all. And this season, he just did it last week. So that's what I'm going to kind of put a little bit of my eggs in that one basket there. But as far as Goff goes, that low volume is concerning to me, Kurt. And I know that we're going to talk about the running backs next because, look, we got David Montgomery, we got Jahmyr Gibbs. When you're clicking one of those guys, I feel like a lot of people in general, too, don't really want to pair a Gibbs or a Monty with Goff, right? Like when you're just building, you're like, man, I might play Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'll take one of the running backs. Oh, man, do I really want to play Goff? Or I'll take Amon-Ra St. Brown and Goff. I'm not going to pick either of the running backs. I want to know what goes on in your mind there in that sense of, are you okay playing Goff with one of the running backs today for the Lions?
I'm absolutely okay with playing him with Gibbs. With Gibbs, like he can take it 70 to the crib. I know like Monty could get a 2-yard rushing touchdown, but I have no problem, none whatsoever, pairing him with Gibbs. Like, in fact, I would welcome it, honestly.
Yep, I like that, Kurt. And
I think it's a great way to kind of attack this defense too. Like they're great against receivers. They're great against the run. Let's get our running backs in space against these linebackers.
I would love to see a Jahmyr Gibbs game. We're going to go ahead and move over to the running backs. And just for the consensus.
Can you look at the props real quick? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah, no, let's look at the props real quick.
I do have a theory about him receiving yards. So I'm curious to what Vegas has put out for him.
Let's go to the running backs here. But TLDR, too long, didn't read. Both like the quarterbacks. We're both not really on Goff. I'm actually lesser on Goff than usual. Like I think I'm going to be much higher on the running backs and wide receivers, but I'm very high on Stroud. You mentioned it, passing funnel for the Texans are going into a pass funnel because the Lions defense really good against the run. They give up 106.4 rushing yards per game, which is 7th in the league, but they give up 250.8 passing yards per game, which is 29th in the league. So you see the disparity there in this Lions defense. That's why we both really like Stroud. Goff, hit or miss. I'm very indifferent. I'm probably going to fade in the main team anyway. As far as props go, and we're going to go ahead and just dive into Jahmyr Gibbs props here. We're also going to mention David Montgomery and Mixon in the same category. When I look at these over-unders, Kurt, rushing yards at 63.5 for Gibbs, 58.5 for Montgomery. Surprising to me, just slightly, just because you know that Montgomery is probably going to get a little bit of a larger carry load. Mixon, 76.5. Seems high. I don't know. That 76.5 seems high, Kurt. We'll put a pin in that. As far as receiving upside goes, what would you guess Jahmyr Gibbs is?
44.
3-4. You talking about receptions?
Wait, receptions, 2.5, 3.5.
2.5. Yep. What is his receiving yardage, you think?
I was gonna say 44, but I think I'm low.
For Gibbs?
Yeah.
You are crazy. You're smoking. The rushing is 63.5. The receiving is 17.5, Kurt.
17.
17.5.
Slamming the over.
You just treated him like he was like, I don't even know who.
Kamara.
And even Kamara doesn't
even hype for Kamara. That's hype for Kamara.
Just
that's how hot. Hey, you know what? Take the alts. The dude's he's gonna get a lot of catch. He's gonna get 3 catches.
You gave me a line he hasn't even hit this year. That was wild. I just gotta call out the absurdity with that one.
I called out Chase Brown only to my group chat, but Chase Brown alts the other night.
Those Chase Brown hits, I love the involvement in the passing game. You know, the Bengals game was very nice props wise, but everything else was not for me in terms of the DFS world because of Tylan Wallace. We'll get to later. But I look at Gibbs here past catching upside. He's had a game of 6 targets, 7 targets, 5 targets, 4 targets, and he's also had games of 0 targets stuff. It's a little bit like a hit or miss with him. But overall, you're 17.5 receiving yards is his prop. Montgomery 9.5, Mixon 17.5 as well. So Kurt, talk to me about the running backs. I want you to start with Mixon because Mixon's going to be polarizing. I'll be honest. I don't like Mixon at all tonight. We mentioned how we want to attack the Texans or the Lions secondary. You don't really want to go up against this front. I know that they're missing some key pieces on the defensive side, like Aiden Hutchinson and stuff. But still, you tell me, Joe Mixon is 10.8K. That is 1K more than Stroud. That is 2K more than Tank Dell. It is very tough for me to even get entertained by Mixon tonight. Kurt, what's your take on it?
I hate to use this phrase, especially since someone mentioned it earlier, but I kind of want to be around the field on Mixon just because the dude has a nose for the goal line. He can catch. They don't take him out of the game, bro. And shout out to my guy Matt Butler. It sends me everything analytics wise. He's the best. The Lions have taken a big hit without Aiden Hutchinson on the field in the running game, and most people wouldn't think that, but they went from top 5 in EPA versus the rush to like almost mid-tier, and they've given up 140 plus, I think, the last 3 games. So this rushing defense for Detroit isn't as good as it once was. So Mixon in that high volume role can get like 80 yards and fall in the end zone twice and catch like 4 passes. So I don't want to think I would want to completely fade him. And if you're doing like 1 to 3, I'd make sure I'd probably have 1. And that's just, I mean, I hate to kind of use that phrase, but I think you got to be careful with Mixon because we see what did to Tony when he said fade him. And he's in the same role here in Houston as he was in Cincinnati. He can easily fall in the box 3 times. He can catch 1. 1 can be a goal line. So, yeah.
It's a touchdown upside. And as someone who has watched Mixon every single year of his career, I feel jealous because I feel like the Texans are getting the best of Joe Mixon. You know, I watch him.
No.
He looks fresh. He looks good.
Efficiency. I'm pretty sure they are. Efficiency-wise, this is the best he's like been in years.
He looks faster than he ever has. And I don't know if it's the uniform, but it kills me, man. Like, I'll look at Mixon, and he gets the ball, and you're like, damn, he's quick this year. And you never really felt that way when he was a Bengal. You're like,
has to be the uniform.
4 yards in the carry. And
got to be the uniform.
I'm off Mixon. You won't be able to talk to me on that one, but I do get the take. You're asking for touchdown upside in that sense. Like, look, it's all right, right? Like the sentiment is there. That's fine. I get it. However, this is a Lions defense that has been incredibly stout against the run for a few years now, right? And I don't know. I know the Texans are going to try and run the ball, but I do think that Dan Campbell is going to try and force guys like Xavier Henderson, Robert Woods, and John Mechie to beat them. Dalton Schultz, you can throw in that mix too, because look, they're really good against tight ends and stuff. To me, that just is a turnoff when you're 10.8K. You're the most expensive Texan on the entire slate. You're just 200 off Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know. I'm not feeling it, Kurt. And he's going to be super chalk. He's going to be 21% in the captain. That is the highest on the slate, is what Saber is projecting. He's going to be 45% in the flex, highest projected on the slate. To me, I'd much rather be away from him and attacking this pass game. Talk to me about Gibbs and Montgomery, though. What are you doing with those two? The top lineup that I made in Saber, Kurt, had both.
Yeah, I mean, it works, honestly. I'm lower on Montgomery than I usually am, and obviously I'm higher on Gibbs. I know the price difference is kind of reflecting that, but that's just how I'm going to be. I'm extremely high on Gibbs' passing work today, so I want to see that come to fruition. And Monty, I just got to keep him out of the box. Somehow just keep him out of the box, and I think I'll be okay. I know you can say the same for Mixon, but I'm just keep him out of the box, man. I'm praying. So I will be under on David Montgomery today. I gotta talk shit about someone on here, and I'm gonna talk shit about someone else next, but it's gonna be Monty, and it really hurts because I freaking love him as a player. He's a workhorse, bro. He just runs right over people.
So I get the sense of Montgomery, right? Like I get it, right? This is a great defense that we're going against. You got to fade someone, right? If I'm fading Mixon, that means I'm probably going to be on Montgomery. If you're fading, or if you want Mixon, you're probably going to be fading Montgomery. That's just the reality of it, right? It's hard. It's really hard to play all three running backs, right? And just to kind of go into your direction, because I do think volume is safe with him. You look at the Titans game; he only had 9 carries, blowout. The Minnesota Vikings game was 9 carries. That one is slightly concerning to me, but he made up for it with 3 catches for 39 yards in a sense where you still get, 12 touches seems like the minimum that you'll get from him, right? Unless it's a blowout. 12 touches to an upside of 20 touches as well, 25 touches if things are going really well. I get why you'd be chilled off of Montgomery, but I also have to say, like, if you look at ownership, Montgomery and Gibbs are going to be around the same. Their props are very much the same. You just get that slight discount on Montgomery, right? Like that's what matters. If you didn't want to play both, I honestly think I'd prefer Montgomery, and that's not because of talent or anything like that. It's because their roles are so similar that the salary savings could be worthwhile. Leaving that extra, 800 could be worthwhile to avoid a chop or whatever, or 1K, I should say. That's even more.
Are you accounting for the props on Gibbs' receiving yards being just completely
8 yards
wrong?
off of Montgomery? I mean,
are you like accounting for it being completely wrong because the Kurt Sportsbook has it much higher?
The Kurt Sportsbook,
you're not accounting for that. I feel like you need to account for that in the projections. You
do you want a hot take here, Kurt?
He gets under 4 yards receiving or something? What?
This isn't a hot take. That was a stupid word to say for it. Montgomery has 17 catches to Jahmyr Gibbs 20 this year.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to mention he's actually been pretty involved in the passing game, to be honest. Which what's funny is like coming out of college, like he could catch. So I never understood why like he got to Chicago and it's like, okay, yeah, he's got brick hands, which he didn't. Yeah. But
he never had brick hands, and like no, I just love this little just this running back room for Detroit. Dan Campbell is such a guy where you're just like he's gonna want to run 30 times if he can tonight against the Texans. Obviously, the Texans defense might prevent that and stuff, but chef's kiss to this defense here. Oh my God. Let's go to the wide receivers here, Kurt. I think we can go ahead and move on to guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tank Dell, Robert Woods, John Mechie, Jameson Williams back from suspension, Tim Patrick, Xavier Hutchinson, and Khalif Raymond. That's the wide receiver pool for tonight. We're going to save tight ends for the next one as well. When I look at these wide receivers, Kurt, one thing that jumps out was the flow chart that Big T does. I look at the flow chart. I'm like, man, I don't really know. The wide receivers don't seemingly do that great in terms of just yardage as an entire group, right? They don't really do well against the Texans. And I look at it, Amon-Ra St. Brown is in the nut spot under Big T's flow chart. And maybe dig a little bit further. Wide receiver number ones have been performing a little bit better than just the wide receiver group as a whole. So I guess that makes a little bit more sense and why that was the case, why the flow chart looked that way. Obviously, the big news, though, Kurt, Jameson Williams back from suspension. So what we saw from guys like Tim Patrick, Khalif Raymond can be scaled back just slightly. But still, I think Tim Patrick is a decent value. But I'm curious to hear what you got to say about this Lions room. And then the Texan side we'll touch on after that. What do you think?
Wait, what did you say about Tim Patrick?
I liked him as a value. I still do, just slightly. But I do prefer the Texans. But talk about this Lions wide receiver room first.
I think regardless of the matchup, Amon-Ra's matchup proof. He can do stuff that you really can't really defend. The short stuff, intermediate. He can get you deep. So he's just really matchup proof, and it's just even better that there works against wide receiver ones. So love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm going to be jamming him in just like everyone else is. As far as the rest, if Jameson Williams is playing like him from earlier in the year, Alec Pierce and Ashton Doolin were able to get behind this Texans defense. So I'm not saying Goff has a cannon like that, but if the offensive line can hold up, they can get behind him. So I don't like Goff. So obviously I'm just probably gonna be jamming like a running back and then Amon-Ra St. Brown. But if you want to kind of dip your toes into thinking that there's a deep ball coming and you want to play Goff, think Jameson Williams is kind of fits that script right there. But it'll just be ASB. I'm not going to be on Laporta either. Laporta's expensive, bro.
You think that's expensive?
Wait, hold on. I was looking at the wrong price.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to look at that.
I was looking at the wrong price. Okay. Still, that's not a bad price, but both these teams have been so good against tight ends that I think I'll just bet them to score and fade them in my lineups.
So the absolute cheeks flow chart column had both tight ends in this room, and I know you're going to talk about Dalton Schultz. Let's go ahead and lump tight ends into this mix too, because I think that's a good conversation.
I'm not playing. I don't like them. I bet them. I've already bet them both to score and both to score first, and I'm not playing them in my fantasy lineups.
So that's just to prevent you from taking a sleeping pill and getting knocked out for the rest of the game. So, right, like that's all that is a hedge on a happy night, right? Like they don't do anything. Like
do you think they're good plays? I mean, it's just bad variance if they score. I mean, it's a terrible matchup for both of them. I guess you can make the case for Schultz because obviously the receivers are hurt and everything, but I think you got to have. I think the reason because these Lions linebackers can cover people who are slow, so Schultz is not fast. So I think if you are going to beat him, it needs to be to the pass funnel with someone quick. So
the Lions have been one of the best units in the NFL guarding the tight ends, and that is through yardage and every metric that you look at. It's like, man, especially fantasy points against, they have not been great at all too. Like, or they have been elite against tight ends, I should say. Tight ends have not been elite against them at all. And that's the concern for me here, Kurt, is like when I look at that, I'm like, man, I don't know what to do. But look, I think for the most part, Sam Laporta is a very perfect buy low candidate, right? When you look at Sam Laporta, you have to be thinking 6,200. That's the cheapest you're going to see him for some time. He can be involved in this offense on any given day. It's not like he's a pure tight end either. He can line up all over the place. So I don't know, Kurt. I think Laporta.
Wait, is this price? Hasn't he been this all year? Like what?
No, he has not been 6,200 on a showdown. Not at all.
What was he week one? I mean, week one is probably his most expensive.
We don't use week one here. What are we doing here, Kurt? It was week one. That was 6,600. That was back when showdown pricing was super cheap. This is, I'm confirming it now.
You're moving the goalpost, buddy.
Am I moving the goalpost? That's what I'm good at.
So what's your predicted stat line for like a nuts Laporta game? Like
he was 5,400 on a Minnesota Viking showdown.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you.
I was wrong.
He's been fucking ass all year. That's why I bet him to score first and bet him to score. He's been terrible this year.
Yeah, he has been. He has been awful this year. But I do think a lot of that has been game
going to go up.
All right. Talk to me about the Texans room now, because that's very important to go over, right? No Nico, no Diggs. Obviously, Diggs out for the year and stuff. You're going to see what we saw against the Jets when it was a very, very tough matchup. And they didn't really excel. I mean, I think that was a disappointing game from the Texans receiving room outside of Tank Dell. But what do you think this week? Well, I think it's a much better spot, obviously. But who's the guy you're looking at?
I think you trust Hutch the most, honestly. So here's how the snap went down when Nico and Steph were both out.
Yep.
Tank Dell, 73% of the snaps. Xavier Hutchinson, 75% of the snaps. Robert Woods, 49%. John Mechie, 63%. Pull up the targets here that week as well. And they were playing from behind. Well, it was kind of close to that whole game. But
it was very.
We had 9 targets for Tank Dell, 3 for Hutch, 3 for Woods, 2 for John Mechie. I think he trusts Hutch the most, even though the targets don't really reflect that. Obviously, I'm going to be jamming Dell, but as far as picking that second pass catcher is where I think you're key. I'm going to go Mechie. I'm going to go Hutchinson, Mechie, and then Woods.
You have Woods last.
He can put him over Mechie. I just think Michie's big play. I'm kind of like, ooh, baby. But Woods is probably a good pass funnel guy, to be honest.
So this is my issue, Kurt, because like I looked at this. I have my home league. I do one fantasy football league a year that isn't DFS, right? Like, and I had Nico Collins in, and I got to put him on the IR, and I had one guy to pick up, right? And just one guy available, right? I had the whole pick of the litter outside of Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Jameson. I went with Robert Woods, straight up points wise. I think Robert Woods is one of those guys where you just look at and you're just like, I trust him the most. Xavier Hutchinson was very ineffective against the Jets. Do I hold that against him? No. Should I? Probably. But we saw Robert Woods hit the optimal, and it was due to a late catch, right? It was like, late in the fourth quarter, he kind of tilted the leaderboard then. But he also ran, 18 rounds. I only expect that to kind of trend up. Mechie and Hutchinson ran a little bit up, and I understand why. I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should look at these routes a little bit more because Mechie ran 29, Hutchinson ran 28, Woods only ran 18. I'm questioning myself, Kurt. Convince me.
I mean, I told you to play Hutchinson. What do you mean?
Convince me more. You can't just.
I think it could be. I mean, could be they trust him more in the blocking game too, which leads to more routes. But I don't know. I feel like CJ Stroud trusts him more. I think he looks good when he's out there. He hasn't capitalized on it, but passes the eye test. Looked good in the preseason too for us past 2 years ish. I mean, and you're getting more, like a lot more snaps. You're getting 30% more snaps. I don't really see that changing. I think it's just what it is. You could definitely put Woods over in Mechie. Mechie is just like I said, the big play guy. But I'm going Hutch, Woods. You can make it close, but I would just feel a lot more comfortable if like Woods was at like 65% snaps, but he literally got out snapped by Tank Dell, or not Tank Dell, but by Michi, which is kind of surprising. Maybe he's just too old. He can't get that many snaps.
I'm going to look at ownership here, Kurt. This is going to help me make my decision.
I think that is a big thing too. Despite whatever the hell I say, if there's accurate ownership on these three, literally just take the cheapest one.
Hutchinson is the lowest though, 9%.
Boom!
Right? Wait till we get caveat 4,600. The other caveat is Mechie's only 2,600. Right.
Fair.
I do think the leverage though with Hutchinson is much better though. If you're getting me 9% and Woods, all right. So I'm going to walk this back real quick. Let me go ahead and just walk this back. Robert Woods at 25% is not as good of a play as Xavier Hutchinson at 9% or John Mechie at 19%. You're getting more routes from those other two. You're getting 50% more routes, right? 20 to 30, basically. That's me. I made my decision. I'm rolling with you. We're going Hutchinson 1, right? Hutchinson's number 1. Mechie 2, Woods 3. Now, I want to mention Tank Dell is my favorite play on the slate, 8,800. He's finally clicking again with CJ Stroud after a really rough first 7-8 weeks. Tank Dell looked really good against the Jets in a really tough spot. I think he gets those woes kind of settled. I honestly think that 8,800 is a great price. With Nico out, we know where CJ Stroud is going to be looking. It's going to be deep for Tank Dell. Let's go ahead and check out this question here. I like this one. Who is the SE captain? Kurt, when I looked at it, I really wanted to go Tank Dell. And I think you can go Tank Dell. I think he might be my favorite captain. And we're going to get we already talked about tight ends, right? We're not on Dalton Schultz really at all. Neither of us, right? And Dalton Schultz, I'm looking at it. I did like him. Coming in. But this is a very tough spot. I think I'm actually going to go away from him. I'm going to buy on Laporta. You're going to be off of him as well. But who's your favorite single entry captain tonight?
I was going to say Tank Dell, but if you want to give a wild one, just go Hutch.
Hutch would be wild. That's single entry, man.
I mean, I don't care, bro. Like this pass funnel, like just get 5 for 60 and a tud. And then you also need to be a higher scoring too. But honestly, if you're trying to play it safe, just go Amon-Ra St. Brown and then take 2 cheap pass catchers instead. So yeah, go Amon-Ra St. Brown. Don't take Tank Dell and just hope that 2 of the cheaper pass catchers can kind of outscore Dell.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to do it this way. We're going to do the $5 single entry on DraftKings, right? We're going to do this real quick. We're going to do a contest sim on that using SaberSim. So I'll tell you what the top captain ROI-wise is for single entry here, Andrew. We'll get that one. Woods anytime. You know, I don't hate those. Like I don't hate any of those guys, but I do think Hutchinson does give you the best chance at leverage. Kurt, what are you doing with the kickers tonight? When we did the Showdown show on Thursday, AP and I, what was that, Halloween day, I think, Halloween night, we talked about how Fairbairn has been one of the best DFS kickers. Fairbairn. I hate pronouncing that name. I can't lie. Fairbairn. It's a rough one to pronounce. What do you think about Fairbairn and Bates for tonight?
Honestly, I've not even looked at the kickers yet, so hold on.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I love these pass catchers in this game so much. But we are in a dome.
Yeah.
I mean, pass funnels kind of lead to a lot of field goals. I'll say that. You know, I mean, you saw Jake Moody today. The 2 most notorious pass funnels in the NFL are probably the Bucs and Detroit. So Jake Moody had like 8 field goal attempts today, and as most people were against the Bucs do, because it's kind of like a bend or break type of scheme, honestly. So, With that being said, I am buying on Kaimi Fairbairn.
Kaimi Fairbairn. I like it.
I'm low on Bates.
Yeah, I'm very high on Fairbairn for sure. I just think that we know the Texans really like to kick field goals. You're missing some of your key guys, especially in the red zone.
Take what you can get. Take the points.
Yeah, they'll take the points quite a bit. Andrew, my top team in the single entry captain right now, ROI-wise, is Jameson Williams. And then second is Tank Dell. There is actually a larger projected score difference by 8 points with the Jameson Williams captain. Doesn't look bad. It has Goff. The ownership is kind of nice. Jameson Williams captain is really low owned. We didn't really talk too much about Jameson Williams, Kurt. Did you want to talk about him real quick? Is there a case to be made for him? Because right now, SaberSim has him as the top single entry captain for using my projections, ROI, using the Run Pure Sports projections with a little bit of bias added in, I should add. Doesn't feel like Jameson Williams is going to get much ownership at all. He's 16% is projected at, right? 6,800, higher price than Laporta. But you know the upside's there with him. You know they're going to try and look for him deep, and he's already had a few great games this season. What's the take on Jameson Williams specifically?
Okay, so did he come out and say like that he accidentally took like something wrong from GNC, or did he just?
He accepted the suspension, is what I know. He didn't even argue it.
Okay, so I think we need to take that into account. That we had a guy who was legit taking PEDs. He is now not taking PEDs.
Oh, God.
Do we remember how he looked?
At Alabama.
No, that was college pre-injury, which as Matt pointed out too.
Yeah, before the blown ACL. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I kind of want to reflect on when he was healthy before his suspension last year for the gambling, or was it after that? But he looked very mid at times. I know there's he was more like the wide receiver 3 at the time, but I do want to run this captain lineup with him just because I think it's good leverage. I want to see what it looks like. But if I was like entering 150 or 20 max, what's his flex ownership right now?
His flex ownership is only 16% right now.
I did not know he's coming in that low. Damn. So I would just get 20%. Like there's nothing wrong with 20% Jameson Williams. Just hope that he's just mid. That is extremely low. I don't think that's accurate. I think he's going to be like 25.
You don't just lose that PED juice, do you? Can you talk to me about PED?
I was also going to say I don't have experience with that. So if anyone out there is, I'm curious if you can lose it in 3 weeks.
That's all natural. That's all natural, is what Kurt's saying. Oh man, we got Mangone joining.
I messed up the box. I literally
used drugs.
I came on the show to literally be like, Kurt, how on earth do you not know this PED answer? I hopped on to be like, Kurt, there's no way they wear off that quick.
I was actually going to say that. I wanted someone in the chat to be like, hey, like, I've been on PEDs. It's Kurt on TRT. Where did he get busted for, too? Like, someone in the chat has to know. Like, we has to know the exact. Was he taking trend? Like, what was he on, brother?
He was taking a league-enhancing substance. So I wonder what it was. So let's figure that out, and then we can Google this. We can do a deep dive because I'm in on this.
I mean, it's important. Like, this isn't even a joke. Like, I think this is actually important. If he's coming in that low ownership, like, this is big.
A stimulant, diuretic, or masking agent. I
motherfucker taking Adderall.
I mean, it's a stimulant or a masking agent. Could have been. This is a 2023 PES policy. So was this from last year? Or no, the date was just wrong here. So yeah, I mean, it would be like a masking agent or something like that, or a stimulant. That's not that bad, Adderall, right?
Well, that means it's worn off. You know what I mean? Like if it's something like Adderall or similar to it,
helped him focus. That explains the uptick in production.
Adderall, bro. I would take Adderall. Okay, this is going to sound embarrassing. Please don't roast me. But I would take Adderall before my rec game sometimes. I played so much better. Like, and bro, I'm ass at basketball. Like, I can just defend. I can't really shoot. But I would play so much better. I would somehow, like, remember how to shoot the basketball sometimes when I took Adderall. So
the last thing I expected out of your words was the rec games. I think anything other than
next time we play, we're gonna have to make sure Kurt has a doctor's prescription to use it while playing, or we're gonna check him before the game.
We need to have PED tests at the arcade.
So with that being said, are we playing non-addy out Jameson Williams?
I'm playing non-Addy Jameson Williams, and I also have a core to give out. JSU and Uncle T have cores. I have Jameson Williams captain. Each of them have Jared Goff. The difference is JSU has David Montgomery, and Uncle T has John Mechie III. Jameson Williams is also a first touchdown bet for JSU, has been on fire with those this year, and he also has Jameson Williams anytime. Did you know that Mangone is on Dalton Schultz? Gross.
Did you know that you didn't shout out so you said the touchdowns are on fire. I nailed Jatavion Sanders this morning, first touchdown.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Then you went Dalton Schultz, so I couldn't lead into it.
Yeah, I gave Dalton Schultz. I know it's kind of gross, but I think it's good. I mean, it's pretty gross, but I mean, for the most part, I try to take something that's at least double digits. So I don't know.
The Jatavion Sanders, was that 13-1?
Dude, for first touchdown?
Or was it 25? I thought it was right around
It was,
the Giants one.
It was like 29-1. And then
29-1?
For first touchdown, yeah.
I looked, I chose damn Giants.
Well, it depends what site you were on, to be fair.
Yeah, Giants D is 22. I thought Sanders was just ahead of him, but that makes sense. That's a good hit. Mangone, you've hit like 3 20-1s on those this year.
Yeah.
Didn't you hit the largest one was like a 40-1, right?
Yeah, and I hit Dortch not too long ago too. That was like a couple weeks ago. That was good.
Is Laporta in that Williams captain lineup?
No, he's not. It is Tim Patrick, Gibbs, Goff.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
To be honest, Jameson Williams is like a sim popper play too. Like just to go back.
He is popping a ton.
He's popping a lot.
So his ownership's not going to be 15. It's going to be like 25-30.
I think the reason why he's kind of is I think it's a price thing. Like for instance, like I noticed kickers popped up a little bit, and just because it wants you to get so many studs, it's basically valuing the studs more than it's valuing the values, if that makes sense.
Yes. I had my first go through was I think I had Zion Vaki in my lineup for like a second. I was like, I'm not going to do that, but it did make you wonder. That was with Nico for what it's worth. Without Nico, no chance at all. But it was like jam 5 studs, and here's Zion Vaki, like who's definitely not going to.
Has he even got a snap this year?
I don't think he has. It is worth noting that I do think Saber was very much pushing the studs, especially with Nico Collins. And now that he's no longer in, though, it does kind of open up the door for guys like Xavier Hutchinson, who we talked about, John Mechie, who we talked about as well. I'm actually going to rerun the sim because I feel like I have these Texans receivers too low. And Mangone, since you joined us, what's the take on Hutchinson, Woods, and Mechie?
Let me just, I don't want to give it out wrong. I think I put it as my rankings in the playbook. I think I have Mechie 1 there. Showdown playbook. Where is it?
It's right here.
I have Mechie 1. I have Woods 2, Hutchinson 3. That's how I have it. I'll admit, like, I don't love it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't love these values as much as everyone else. I mean, Mechie's just the cheapest, and it's all about getting those studs on your lineups, though, right? Like, it's all about trying to get between 4 and 5 to those guys up top, or not up top, but basically, like, I would say, like, above the kickers. You want like 4 to 5 of those guys. You're trying to kind of jam in there a bit.
I'm with you. I'm going to go a first touchdown here. That's a little bit off the board. I'm going to go Xavier Hutchinson. If you're going to be on the field that much and you're 25-1, kind of similar to your Jatavion Sanders one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I was looking at those guys a little bit. I just thought the Schultz number was like, I don't know. I just think he's the number 2. And like then with the other receivers, I feel like I'm guessing. So I feel like I'm getting the number 2 for a very close price. So that's why I kind of did that.
No, makes sense there for sure. My core is now up on the site. I'm going to go ahead and give it away. Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, and then it is David Montgomery in that mix as well. But if you bump up Xavier Hutchinson a bit, I'm kind of curious to see how these work out in the sim, especially for single entries. Kurt, anything else you wanted to mention? Like, we usually talk about defense stuff, but I feel like defenses have become a little bit more of where if you're playing them and they fit, it's fine to play them. And if you have a certain script, it's very fun to play them. Like, I thought the Panthers would actually get destroyed today. Like, they didn't really do that great on the offensive side outside of Chuba. And it ended up being kind of, much closer. But like when I played for a Giants route, I was very high on the Giants defense. I'm not high on either team, absolutely dominating today, Kurt. But still, we talked about how the value is there with these receivers, but you also have a Lions defense that's only 4K, and that seems very appealing to at least a small degree, especially at like 12% ownership. What do you think on these defenses, Kurt?
I'm not playing him. I would like it a lot more if Aiden Hutchinson was playing to wreak some havoc on the road, but if they beat me, they beat me. It's whatever. They are cheap though. They are, and they do fit a couple of my builds, and I was like, should probably play them. I'm not going to though because I'm not a bitch.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. ROI wise, and we have a new captain up top. No, we don't. No. Yeah, we do. Jahmyr Gibbs with no Stroud in this one. Laporta captain as well. Pops second with Stroud. Dell and Schultz. That's interesting. A double tight end. Kurt would hate that one.
I like the Gibbs ones, Rubio. Like I wish I had those a little bit more, but I don't know. I already ran stuff, and I'm just gonna call it a day. So
it's funny because Jameson Williams keeps popping up, and I have to think that Saber is really valuing his upside too. Because when you look at what he's done this year, it might not be the highest volume, but in his 6 games he's played, he has 3 touchdowns, and he's also had 3 games of 75 yards or more, or 4 games of 75 yards or more. Like the boom or bust is very much within him, and that's perfect for Showdown here. Yeah. Mangone, we got a question. Sylvester Payne, who's your captain tonight?
My captain is Tank Dell. I think he was the guy when I ran everything. He seemed like the best option. Also, I like 4-2 underdogs, of course. So I like to get exposure to those. So Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, and Jahmyr Gibbs in the flex. That's kind of where I'm at.
I like it a lot.
I love the 4-2s tonight.
4-2 Texans. Those do look very big, especially if you want to angle for that run game of the Lions. Like it kind of makes a lot of sense in that sense. Tank Dell, CJ Stroud. Let me go ahead and get my boy Hutchinson in here too. I want to see where this kind of leads on a hand build. If you do a Monroe St. Brown, look the double punt Texans wide receiver is kind of making sense. Not double punt because look. 4,600 for Hutchinson's not a punt at all, but you can go Mechie or Woods here, and it leaves like 600. Looks really nice, Kurt. That might be my favorite build of the night.
Yeah, no, I'm literally building it as we speak.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I like it. All right, any questions, guys? Throw them in here. We'll go ahead and happily answer them. Well, at least I'll try to. It should be a good time. We got a few minutes left in the show here, and yeah, feel free to throw them into the YouTube chat. So, how was your Sunday today? There you go.
I did good. I actually I had some sweats, so I was kind of.
I made money today too. What the hell?
I had opportunities on the afternoon slate. I was up towards the top for a bit with like a Cardinals onslaught that was looking good. It had actually, dude. CD Lamb was 4% in like a single entry on the afternoon slate. Which was crazy.
I almost replied to that. And I was like, okay, so out of those 4%, 1 or 2% had to just like forget about the Dak thing, right, and just like play him.
I mean, I guess, dude, it was crazy. Like my team finished like I think it's
a great play at 4%.
I finished 60th in like the $50 single entry, and I mean, I had CeeDee Lamb and Rico Dowdle had snowflakes, so. You can tell Rico Dowdle he sucks, Kurt, and I'm very upset.
They kept taking him out the goal line. He was doing good.
To be honest, it's not his fault. Why are they giving Zeke the ball like this? Like, what is happening?
Ask Rico, Kurt.
Right now.
Oh, dead serious though. It makes no sense what they're doing. Like Rico's playing great. Why are you playing Zeke? I mean, unless you're actually like actively tanking or he has dirt on them. I don't know what the deal is. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't get it either, especially after being inactive last week. The whole Dalvin Cook thing was really weird when Rico got sick. I don't know what is going on in that dysfunctional, sad excuse of a franchise. I say that as a Bengals fan, ironically. But it is a little bit maddening what the Cowboys are even doing. I'm glad that Trey Lance got some snaps, even though he can kind of turn it over. He does look like he's got the ability. It's just a matter of putting it actually on the field. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice. I mean, it doesn't look like we're getting any questions here. I do agree. I think I don't know if Jerry would make the move in season, especially if he already has someone like Bill Belichick in mind. Like if he would just wait until after the season for that. You see what a coaching change does for some teams too. Like Robert Saleh getting fired from the Jets did not solve any other issues. But for the Saints,
the only reason you could see him, Rubio, get fired, I think, is if whoever his guy is starts getting recruited by another team that fires coaches, right? That's where you start to see coaches start to like keep getting fired quicker because there's guys on the market that they want and they want to lock them up sooner.
Yep. Maury, I loved the Cowboys last year coming into the season. I was very happy with the way they looked. And then ultimately you kind of saw the cracks start to form their latter half and then the Packers playoff game. This season has been a Mickey Mouse show. I mean, it really has. And I hope that next year is great for the Cowboys because I think the league is much better when the Cowboys are actually good. The rest of the NFC East fans will strongly disagree. They love life right now, but except for the Giants. But it genuinely is just a really weird situation there in Dallas. I just think this taking care of Zeke thing and the Dalvin Cook thing, the Rico Dowdle situation, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I actually thought they were going to do something smart, and that was not extend Dak. And this isn't the time for, it's a DFS show or whatever, but I thought they were not going to extend Dak and try and build out where you go cheap quarterback, you take that risk, and instead you're locked into this contract now. And I don't know. Very curious. Lions win today. Luis Perez. I am on a Lions win, but I do think it'll be a very close game. Kurt Mangone, who you got winning tonight?
Gotta go Lions.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against the Lions right now. They're such a good team. If I had to guess, I'll say Lions win 27 to. We'll go with 19. Texans will they'll get some garbage points, right? They'll come from behind and get those garbage points. They'll go for 2 and it won't work out. That's the exact score. 27-19.
What are the odds on a 27-19? Probably like 60 to 1, 75 to 1. Yeah,
they're probably insane, but I will not be wagering money on that. I'll say
Gibbs over Monty. For me, it is Monty slightly over Gibbs, and that is just purely because of price, but also their props are extremely similar. Gibbs has better props, but he's also 1K more expensive. Brian Dable might be. The Dable thing. Oh man, I think Daniel Jones gets benched first before Dable gets fired. And I think it could be happening next week.
Yeah.
I think the Giants have a bye week next week, and I think the Panthers do too, coming back from Germany.
Who's the backup? If is it?
What was
the backup? Who's the backup for New York?
Tyrod.
Who?
Taylor. Tyrod Taylor.
Is it?
Wait, am I an idiot? Or no? Is it Drew Lock?
It's Lock. Yeah, remember the show?
Drew Lock. Yeah, not Tyrod.
I'm very surprised he wasn't benched today in that because now that I'm remembering it's Drew Lock, or you told me. But
it's even funnier because isn't Tyrod Taylor the Jets quarterback? So yeah, okay, New York.
That's in the show. That's who they're trying to get, and they missed out on him because the Jets signed him or whoever signed him, and then they got Drew Lock. So I'm very surprised with it being Drew Lock, who's at least respectable. I'm very surprised he wasn't benched today.
I'm kind of curious because I think Drew Lock still has talent. So it would be interesting to kind of see him thrown into a role. I also think Zach Wilson has talent too. So my takes aren't the best. The Bears. This one's an interesting one since we got an extra minute. Someone's going to ask questions. Eberflus and Shane Waldron might get canned tomorrow. Eberflus is going to throw Shane Waldron underneath the bus and he's going to drive over him because he said they asked another offense coordinator. Said we're open to anything at this moment, right? Like. He is driving over Shane Waldron with this giant bus, and I don't know. The Bears situation is very delicate. That is a team that has no direction as of this moment. And
you gotta fire Eberflus. You gotta fire Waldron though too. Eberflus sucks, but Waldron's been bad since he went there. Yeah. He went in there and ruined what Dave did in Seattle. So,
and you look at it too. The whole thing, where 2 weeks ago, you were in that game, and then you tried to get the ball to an offensive lineman, on first and goal. It was just the absurdity from that coaching staff just kills me. We already hit our time limit here. I hope you guys have a great Sunday night football game to watch. It should be a good one between the Lions and Texans. Thank y'all for watching. For Mangone, for Kurt, and for I. Good luck. We hope you take part of that $300K winner tonight. Bye-bye.